started, I do want to mention that this presentation is being recorded. We have the permission of our elders to record this session for those who are unable to join us today. And so for that reason, would like to kindly ask that you leave your microphones and video off for the duration of the presentation until we come to a little bit of a Q&A and dialogue at the end for the best sound quality for the presentation and recording. So at this time, I wanted to thank our resident elders for being here today, joining from the safety of their homes, Elder Ken Pruden, Elder Larry Grant, and Elder Philip Gladue. Thank you so much for not only sharing this time with us, preparing this presentation today, but I really wanted to use this as an opportunity to express my sincere gratitude for your continued and ongoing support and guidance through this global COVID pandemic. It's been just an incredible opportunity to learn and grow in new ways, working together and navigating the Elders in Residence program in a context of really quickly changing circumstances. And I just wanted to say how much I appreciate your open hearts and open minds to be able to adapt to new technologies and ways of gathering and practicing our cultural protocols and practices so that we can continue to support staff, students, and faculty at Jibc during this really challenging time. I also wanted to give a special shout out to the Director of the Office of Indigenization, Jason LaRochelle, and Dr. Michelle Tarko, our CEO and President, and Colleen Vaughn, our VP Academic. Thank you so much for your ongoing support of the Office of Indigenization and the Elders in Residence program, and for collaborating on our initiatives. And so before we begin, and I ask Elder Larry Grant to say some opening words, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional territories that I'm on and situate myself within these territories. Keeping in mind that wherever we travel on Turtle Island, we are on Indigenous land. And so I would like to encourage you to take a moment to reflect on this, and either silently or in the chat box feature, situate yourself within the local Indigenous traditional territories that you're on. So today I'm working from home, and so I'm on the unceded ancestral lands of the Katzie, Kwekwetlam, Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. And as I had mentioned, I'm from the Stowakam Huttlam First Nation. So as a woman who is Shawatmach, Interior Salish, and mixed European heritage, I acknowledge that my position on these territories is as an incomer. And so as someone who benefits from being situated on unceded lands and the resources and opportunities that are extracted through colonization. But it's not enough to say these words. Respect, truth, and reciprocity, this must be followed with action. And so I really, again, wanted to thank all of you today for being a part of this presentation, together joining in to take action, first for acknowledging the relationship that you have with the lands that you're situated, and the relationship of these lands to its First Peoples, and also for taking a step in building a relationship with the Office of Indigenization and the Elders in Residence program. Relationships begin with an introduction, and so it's my hope that one of the many things that you take away from today is a standing and open invitation to engaging with the Elders in Residence program. And so on that, I'd like to pass it over to Elder Larry Grant to start us in a good way with some opening words. Thank you. Elder Larry.
Thank you, Heather. It's my privilege to be here today and to offer the land acknowledgement. Siatalatin to swallow a huinamet shuiti taniat schwayamat a Clayos Tana Whale. Staequinus Juvenis Capelano, a Holtimo to Quist. He looks took the Hinos, Emich Netten, Quishwe to E, says all Tomuchet from Muslim. Sets us into me to swallow, Etiatala, a Helixtala. When I Tinish Qualawan, Quincy Quetznala. Tumukalap Kushwa to Tana Whale, High Tepka, High Tepe was the I want to say thank you. Thank you very much for having me here this morning. Larry Grant is my English name. Sayitluk is my Musqueam name. I am a descendant of Keopolano and Xochimilco, who were here to greet the first visitors to arrive off our shores, the Spanish under Captain Narvaez and the English under Captain George Vancouver. And as our ancestor did in the past, I do today, and raise my hands in welcome to all of you that are logged on to this presentation today on the traditional, ancestral, unceded lands of the Hunkaminam speaking Musqueam people, along with all of our other relatives that are here on this river. And that's really, really something for us to be able to be in this land. And as one of the last families to live in the community of Kikite, it's an important thing to understand that there were several families that lived at Kikite, which is directly across the river from Westminster at the foot of the Patella Bridge, and it's now known as Bridgeview or Brownsville's Bar. And that was the area that our people were moved on to from the area of Sapperton. That was the area that our people had lived in prior to colonization, and that is something that many people are not aware of, that the Indigenous peoples of this land were already living in the area that the Royal Engineers appropriated and forced our community members across the river and then created a reserve there. So that's a little bit of our history on my Musqueam side. My father is from China. He's from Zhongshan, and the province or the county of Guangdong, and from the village of Seimun. So that's my background, but I was raised as a Musqueam person, and I am a Musqueam band member from birth. So it's something that it's important to understand, that coming from the two different, I would say, oppressed ethnic groups here in Canada, it's good to be a part of the Elder in Residence program at the Justice Institute of British Columbia. So I want to say again, Colette Quincy Tiatala, Ihilokstala, such as something neat, just follow. It's here, so I said it was him. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Larry. Thank you for grounding us with your opening words, and we are so grateful that you are a part of the Elders in Residence program. Thank you for sharing the teachings of the land base that our New Westminster campus is situated, and we have so much to learn, and we're just very grateful for your generosity in sharing with us today and continuing through the Elders in Residence program. So we'll take a quick peek at today's agenda. So I have the honor and privilege to introduce our elders through some elder introductions, and after each introduction we'll invite the elders to share some words as well. And then after, we will have the elders speak to elder roles and responsibilities and provide an overview of the Elders in Residence program. We'll look about elder engagement at JIBC in a more formal fashion, and then close today's presentation with a bit of a question and answer period and some closing words. So without further ado, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce Elder Philip Gladue, Elder Larry Grant, and Elder Ken Pruden. And so I'm going to start by introducing Elder Philip Gladue and share a short bio. So Elder Philip Gladue is from the Métis Nation. He was born and raised in High Prairie, Alberta. Elder Phil is a knowledge keeper, is from the Métis Cree culture, and was raised in a traditional way, proud that he speaks the Cree language and can pass on these teachings, and does so in many different ways, both as a resident elder at JIBC, and if you had caught a bit of the conversation at the beginning, before the presentation started, talking about the work that he does with local school districts and various boards. Elder Philip has been married to Elder Betty Gladue, and together has 3 daughters, a grandson, and a granddaughter. So thank you again to Elder Philip for all of the work that you do in JIBC, but in our larger community. And just wanted to pass it over to you for any words or thoughts that you have today.
Well, I just wanted to say good morning to everyone. Beautiful morning. Excuse me. Yeah, so it's always nice to come together like this, especially we don't get to meet face to face anymore, not as much as we should, but it feels good to be here this morning, and nice to be able to meet other people that's interested in the programs here in JIBC, and like you were saying, I have a little bit of knowledge of the little history of the Métis Cree people, and I do presentations in the schools. Every Tuesday I do presentations in a classroom setting. So to just talk about the history of the Métis, where they came from and where they're at today. So some of that kind of knowledge I carry, and the language, and I speak the Cree language fluently, and that I'm really happy about that, to be able to do that after my parents passed away, and my siblings on my side, we all speak it. So we're very fortunate to be able to speak it, because we were raised at our home using that language. So anyway, that's who I am, and I'm looking forward for today, and any questions that's come up, and I'll do my best to answer them. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Elder Phil. So next, I would like to introduce Elder Larry Grant. And Elder Larry, thank you again for your opening words, and you've kindly shared some of this background, but we'll again recognize that you are from Musqueam Nation, and that you were born in Agassiz, BC, but have been raised on Musqueam traditional territory. Elder Larry spoke of his Chinese and Musqueam ancestry. In addition to his role at JIBC as a resident elder, Elder Larry is also a resident elder for the UBC First Nations House of Learning, and is also an adjunct professor in the Endangered Language Program at UBC. And in addition to the many, many roles Elder Larry has played over the years, for many years as a longshoreman, and then as a bound counselor, grandfather, educator, and cultural practitioner, he offers a wealth of information on behalf of Musqueam. For example, just recently visiting the Museum of Vancouver had helped to curate the Cessnom exhibit that is still currently at the MOVs, which I highly recommend to check out. But again, thank you so much, Elder Larry, for being a part of the Elders in Residence program, and just wanted to again offer this space if you have any additional words that you wanted to share with us.
Thank you, Heather. It's pretty good. I forgot about this one, born in the hop field. Yeah, yeah. So that's something that our family used to go up to the Stalo territory, up in Chilliwack, Sardis, and as part of the itinerant farm workers. And that year, our family was up there, and then I was born in the middle of the night up there in Agassiz, and came home after the hop season was finished. So, yeah, and it's really quite a being a resident elder at JIBC and UBC. is quite a responsibility in the eyes of how things have been working out. That we're here, and I know that my job my responsibility as an elder in residence at either institution is to maintain Musqueam protocols and ensuring that Musqueam is represented in a good way, and as an ambassador for Musqueam, but also that to put forward as much of Musqueam history as I have in my head, and that's all part of the responsibilities that we have as elders in the program, being the grandfather figure, the uncle figure, the someone to talk to, and it's really quite quite an important role that we play, which helps to maintain the wellness of students and faculty, and that's part of it. So that's a little bit of who we are as elders in residence, and that's just thank you for having that time to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Elder Larry. I'd like to now introduce Elder Ken Pruden. Elder Ken Pruden is from the Metis Nation. He was born and raised in the prairies in Tyndale, Manitoba. His background is Métis English, French, and Cree. And Elder Ken is a veteran. He served a long career, over 30 years, in the Royal Canadian Air Force. And in addition to his work as resident elder at JIBC, he continues to work for the National Parole Board of Canada as an elder, and also as a cultural advisor for the Fort Langley National Historic Site of Canada. And again, a plug for Fort Langley National Historic Site is an incredible place of learning, and Elder Ken again has so generously donated much of the exhibit dedicated to the history of the Métis peoples in the Fort Langley settlement, and so it is something to check out. Elder Ken resides in Aldergrove with his wife Sandra and has 2 children, 7 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. So again, thank you so much, Elder Ken, for being here and for having a very long-standing relationship with JIBC, which I understand is now over 20 years. And so I just thank you so much for being a part of our community, and I want to pass it over to you for any words that you want to share today.
Well, thank you very much, Heather. I appreciate that. I'm very happy to be here today to be able to share with others. And I'm situated in the Stolo territory, so I want to acknowledge and thank the Stolo people in particular and the Coast Salish people in general for allowing me to speak on their territory. And it's been a long process with the Institute, but it's been very rewarding to see the progress that has been made because of the people like Elder Larry and Elder Phil and all the staff there who are so encouraging and supportive in the different things that we try and do. And I wasn't fortunate enough to be raised in the culture like the others, because my background was mainly, my father was a trapper, a muskrat trapper, but he died when I was very young. So unfortunately, we didn't experience that much until later in life. But I've had the good fortune to be able to share with others through the recent few years as an elder in the federal institutions and with the parole board and doing some instruction in the different schools and universities on and off as a guest speaker. So my background doesn't sound much like our history because it was mainly military and then healthcare. But both of those professions that I was involved in for lengthy periods of time helped me to realize when I came in contact and associated with our own people, how much our people were missing and how much support we need to improve that. So along with that, and along with being in the Institute, it's such a great experience. It's expanded my knowledge and my expectations far beyond what I ever thought would happen. So I'm very pleased to be here today to share with the people what I can and to learn from them, because I learn a lot more from you people than you learn from me. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Elder Ken. I just want to again thank you, Elder Ken, Elder Phil, and Elder Larry for sharing your introductions. We are just so tremendously privileged at JIBC to work with each one of you as our resident elders. As a public post-secondary institute, and one that has a unique role and responsibility to both our learners and society in general, the knowledge that we gain from our elders and other knowledge keepers is imperative to help shaping our cultural competency in learning in the ways that we are engaging and showing up in the work that we do every day. So to help develop the cultural competence muscle, as we call it, today's presentation has been purposefully designed to share information by incorporating characteristics of Indigenous knowledge. So the first characteristic is that Indigenous knowledges are personal. And so to exemplify this question, or exemplify this characteristic rather, I'd like to ask Elder Ken to kindly reflect on the question of why did you accept the role as resident elder at JIBC?
Well, thank you, Heather. My acceptance of the role came as much of a surprise to myself as it did to anybody else, I think, because I never did expect to be involved with an institution as prestigious as the Justice Institute. And when I was asked to accept a role as the elder, I wasn't really sure what it involved. They tried to explain to me a little bit about, well, you're going to help to improve the information and the knowledge of the staff and be there to help the students and things like that. So I accepted the position. I was a little hesitant at first, but after my first meeting, I realized very quickly how important that was and how serious the Institute is in improving this role in the institution. Because at our first meeting was when I realized there was representatives there from all across the province. And they were all exceptionally knowledgeable and talented people, and they were all there to improve the role of the Indigenous people in the Justice Institute. And they came to every meeting and they put their ideas and their feelings in, and at that time there was about a dozen of us sitting around a table in one of the back rooms. You can look at the Justice Institute today, where we are in our role, and you can see how much it has been advanced. And that was certainly due to the role at every one of our meetings. There was a representative from the Institute to encourage us and to help us out and advance the role. And in all the years that I've been associated there, that never changed. The management is in favor of it. The other elders work tirelessly at it, and it's very rewarding when you have to go in and talk to somebody maybe from the other side of the country that's on a course and requires some support. And if you're able to provide that, it's very rewarding. So I mainly accepted the role to help move our people ahead if I was able to, and to clarify the role of the Indigenous peoples and the Métis peoples in the Institute as a site.
Thank you so much, Elder Ken. I just love hearing your stories of your experiences at JIBC, and I'm so heartened by the growing visibility and inclusion of elders within all areas of the way that we operate at JIBC. So it's going to bring us to a question that we get posed on quite a regular basis. What is an elder? And just to recognize that this term, of course, is an Anglo-Saxon term, a colonial term, and can mean different things in different perspectives in different First Nations, for example. But in your own words, Elder Ken, could you explain what is an elder in terms of that term?
Well, thank you. In my teachings and my understanding of the term, an elder is usually an older person. I have seen it documented. They feel between 50 and 70 years old. That is learned through life experience, teachings, studying the proper ceremonies and practices that they can pass on the history to younger people and clarify it. And it's an older person, excuse me, that is willing to speak out in defense of the people, to help explain our position in society. And I have seen it documented that a younger person, if they have a special gift to share with the community, can be considered an elder. But I think mostly they're considered knowledge keepers. And there are very, very many elder Indigenous peoples who don't wish to be recognized as elders, but are definitely knowledge keepers and do share their knowledge with the rest of the people, and that's what reinstates our history and our culture, because so much of it was lost in the times of the residential schools and the 60s scoops and things like that. That it's important for the elders to be available to refresh the memory of not only the younger people, but the people who were involved that tried to take that away from us. So thank you.
Thank you, Elder Ken. That is such an important point. One of my favorite quotes that I've heard over the years is that elders are like a university. We have so much knowledge to pass on, and it's such a rich learning opportunity for anybody that can connect with an elder. And I just love this picture of you, Elder Ken, from Bell Let's Talk 2019, when we were able to gather in the atrium, and you were able to speak about mental wellness and well-being from your perspective and the Métis perspective. And so the next slide here talks about what does this mean in practice. So you talked a little bit about what is an elder, but can you describe some of the aspects of what it means to be an elder in your daily living?
For me, is it's very important, and we were raised like that. I was raised like that, to pass on the information, all the healthy practice, knowledge, and respect, all that to my siblings and my children. And I was always told an elder is somebody that's respected in a community. And for me to play a role in a justice institution, I didn't put myself here. I was asked to be here by the Métis Nation of British Columbia, and I do sit as a senator for the Métis Nation of BC, and that's another important role. But here at JIBC, I get to work with different nations from this territories here, and I get to learn from their perspective. And coming from my perspective, coming from Alberta side of the country and living in BC for the last, I would say probably 60 years, I also learn so much stuff. And for JI, to be a part of JI, I like to share the knowledge that I learned through all this, to be able to not only mentor, but support the younger people that's coming to JI to learn about the institution itself, all the education that takes part in here. And my main objective would be to learn about the history of the Aboriginal people of Canada. And I think that's very important because that's what's happening in our schools. That's being taught, the history of Canada. And I'm always happy to be able to share my own life experiences. I didn't get too much out of the books. I just talk about my life of growing up as a Métis Cree person and working with many nationalities through my life and learning from them also. So I can, and I like supporting younger people. Even some adults are coming on board now, learning that they are Aboriginal. They want to know about history, and basically they're searching for themselves. And I'm always there to try and support them the best way I can, so they to have them keep trying and finding more and more all the time, and not to give up. And JI is a place where you can learn so much about the history with the Aboriginal people, what role they played here in Canada. And it's been a big eye opener for me. When I first came here, I didn't realize what it was all about. In fact, I was reluctant to come here until a couple of RCMP came to my house and they said, "Hey, you know what? We need you. We need you to come and work and share your knowledge, your language, and all the history that you know as an Aboriginal person in the institution." So I could remember that day when they came into the house and asked me 2 times. They did that, and because I didn't know what the institute really was all about. And when I started, probably my first meeting, I met Ken, I met Larry. I did a couple openings prior to that in their activities, but I didn't get to meet the elders that were here. And I got to meet a few of them. There was a couple of ladies at that time too. So it's been really good for me. And I think it's a very good thing that JI has this, so that we need to understand the history of the people that we're going to educate, so that they know the history of Canada itself, how it came to be. What role did the Aboriginal people play here? All that is going to be it's coming all the time, and in the schools, it's the same thing in the school system. Anything to do with education, I think, is a good thing. Anything to do with safety, you need to know all these protocols and all the roles that people need to play when they come here for their courses. So, I'm happy to be able to share the knowledge of what I know, and that's what an elder is to me. Somebody that knows not only the history, but language, preferably if they know it, that's even better yet. But anything to do with life, balancing life in an honest and healthy way, to move forward with all the new things that's coming our way, including the technologies that we're using today. And, those are new for me, and, to adapt to it. And we don't have to assimilate to that. We can adapt to it. We've been adapting since European contact on this country. And I always have, the question came to me, when did you start to assimilate? A lawyer asked me that question. It was very surprising for me. Then I looked at him and I said, I don't know if I have. I said, because my first language is Cree, so I don't understand that word assimilation. And I said, let me tell you what I think it means. And I said to him, I think it means if I took my language and threw it out there somewhere, all my cultural values, put them on a shelf someplace to collect dust, and try to be somebody that I could never be, I said to him. And he looked at me and he grabbed his mouth. He went like this to his mouth. He said, I'm sorry. And I looked again at him. I said, and then he replied, he says, I didn't learn this in university, he told me. I said, hey, don't beat yourself up. It's not your fault. It wasn't taught in our education system. Don't feel bad about it. But you can understand it now. So I said, you know, we didn't assimilate. I said, we adapted, and we'll adapt as far as the sun rises. And he said, I'm very sorry. And he said, you know what? I learned something here, he said. Thank you very much, he said to me. So that's what I learned from the academic side of our society. They didn't learn our history. And that's what we're doing in our schools today. We're doing that no matter where we go. We're trying to teach that. Come back down, learn the history, where we come from. What role do we play here as Aboriginal people? How can we help make it better? And that's what JEI means to me. We're there to make things better, to try and help out the best way we can. So I hope that understanding is accepted in a good way, so that we can move on and to keep going. And this program is awesome. Once people start to understand what it's all about, the elders play a big role here, because they know that history. They didn't get it from a book. The elders that's sitting in the Justice Institute, they lived it. They can tell from their hearts. It's not all from the head. They have feelings. They've heard it. They went through all that stuff. So I hope that gives you a little bit of information on why I choose it, why I accepted this place here as JI. So thank you, Heather.
Sachin, thank you so much. Thank you to both Elder Ken and to you, Elder Phil, for grounding us in these personal perspectives. I think that we have a really good sense, strong sense of how important elders are to our community, and really speaks to that you have really rooted us in is the root system to the culture and languages, and being able to keep Indigenous peoples strong and visible. And so I just so appreciate that. Thank you. So I'm just going to move on to look at Indigenous knowledges as being experiential, and to explore this characteristic a little bit, which you did through telling of your personal perspectives. And so I hope we can see how these characteristics of Indigenous really weave together. So Elder Phil, you spoke a little bit about what your perspectives are on an elder. Could you dig a little bit deeper as to what makes an elder in the Métis Cree culture and your upbringing, and what you've learned and observed over the years?
Well, I think just being an example to the community and to the people that are involved within your education, teaching about history and language and culture within your community as a Métis nation. It's been an ongoing thing, and it's getting better as we move on, because we have Métis here in British Columbia that are right across Canada. They're not just from one little spot. And a lot of them have a difficulty in adapting to looking at their history. And oh, sorry, I think I just tipped over. But yeah, so I think it's important, again, they get to decide who an elder is. Like, again, it was the community that wrote a letter to the JEI instituting at that time for me to be able to play a role in there. I was accepted in the community, so I had to get all the different things that I need to do. And an elder is somebody that's looked upon as healthy. They have a fairly healthy lifestyle, good criminal record, and all those things are needed to be able to represent your community in a healthy way. So I guess I had fit that criteria, and I was very fortunate to be able to do that. And because my life story kind of follows me no matter where I go in that sense. And that's when you develop, since you were a child, people who are watching you. Somebody's always watching us. Every one of us. There's somebody out there that looks at you, the way you move, how you live, how you treat yourself, how you're going to treat your community. So all those values that I learned through my elders, I watched them, what they say, how they move, how they put in the community, how they helped out when times get really hard and tough. They're there standing beside you to tell you to stand strong. Hang on to yourself. Don't lose yourself. We need to think now. Put things together for the community, for our people. Those are the kind of values that I learned. And those are the things that I pass on as much as I can to people that want to use them. And I also say education is so important, more important today than it was in my time. I didn't go through university or anything like that. I don't have a title, but I have some knowledge. I have some experience in life that I can pass on and help out somebody that needs it. So that's how that's what I learned in my upbringing, to be able to respect each other. In fact, yesterday I talked about that in the school, that big R. So I think it's needed right at the school level to be able to teach that respect. How does that look like? What does it look like? And I think yesterday I got a good feedback from the younger kids. And it's funny because one of the kids, these are grade 5s, and one of the kids said, "How about war?" And I said, "No, we don't need to fight each other. We need to respect each other and support one another. Take care of each other." Because those kids are not taught that in the schools. They're taught to take. That's what they teach you in the school, how to be a king. They don't teach you how to put to the community. That's the missing part of our younger generation today. They were taught to take, to be powerful. That's not what life is all about. So I like talking about that because the kids need that today, and they will understand it a lot easier than some of our adults. So I just want to share that, and those are the values that I learned in my culture, and it comes with the language. The language is very sacred. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Elder Phil. You've really spoken to elders' just wide variety of roles and responsibilities, and so we really see elders in our communities as our teachers and as our role models, conveyors of knowledge, and just how important that is, as you said, to education and being able to learn, looking back, presently of our circumstances and moving forward. It just connects all of those perspectives. And so really is a good segue to looking at the Elders in Residence program and the thought and consideration that went into formally engaging with elders, and the vital role that elders play in the progress and future of JIBC and the mandate that we have. And so I'd like to invite Elder Larry to talk about your experience and your history with the Elders in Residence program in its more formal formation, and really the purpose and the thought behind the Elders in Residence program at JIBC.
Thank you. Excuse me. I think Phil covered a lot of it, but the Elders in Residence program is very, very vital in the sense of, as you've got it here, the TRC's call to action and the BC Declaration on the rights of Indigenous peoples, and the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act in British Columbia, as this is a British Columbia institution. So the real purpose, I think, is part of reconciliation, a bit of it, but the major role is to bring about presence, Indigenous presence, and present and knowledge that is not taught anywhere in any school or any institution until you get into university. This is not something that has been brought about or talked about. And the general population, including staff, faculty, and students, and other Indigenous peoples of Canada are totally, I wouldn't say totally, but the majority of them are absolutely ignorant of the presence of Indigenous peoples in Canada. New immigrants are not taught any of that. Our children in schools are not taught about that. And part of this is, it's, for me, it's sad that it's taken the TRC and UNDRIP and DRIPA to bring about this big change within institutions, to bring about some cultural sensitivity that is sorely lacking throughout our society in Canada and United States, in North America. And it's really, really important that when we talk about Canadian history, Canada's history in its assimilation process is something that is not spoken about in that way. This is Canada's history of assimilation and colonization that began as soon as the European English settlers arrived and began to occupy our lands arbitrarily. And that something that many, many new immigrants that sometimes might get brought into different institutions that are actually dealing with the assimilation process, very much like the Indian residential school system, the survivor society, where immigrants sometimes will get a position in there and then all of a sudden realize these are things that are going on in Canada. And then when they begin to search, they can't find anything. Canada has no information out there for the general public to acquire any sort of understanding of why Indigenous peoples are in this situation that they're in Canada. And some immigrants will take umbrage to hearing Indigenous people talk about how cruel the Canadian government assimilation policies and genocidal property practices that are going on, and stand there and say, this could never happen in this country called Canada. And then others will just fall apart when they find out all of these assimilators acts and wonder how they can be part of the solution and be part of the people of Canada that really, really reflect what is said around the world, that Canada is the #1 world for to live in. It has very, very good laws, it has a very good system, and yet we find that what is brought to light around the world is what is happening in the United States at this point in time, but it's also happening here in Canada with the Indigenous people, suffering the same injustices, the same nasty elements that are there in the societal makeup. And those things are actually so embedded, so normalized in English European society in Canada and United States that it's really, really a challenge. And that's all part of what I think the Indigenous Elders program is all about, is to bring about cultural sensitivity, bring about the presence of our people, bring about the injustices perpetrated by Canada, and that it is so embedded that it's normalized, and that for us to change that, we have to be able to bring all these issues and have them on the table, or have them being discussed in a safe space. And that's where the Elders program comes into play, where we are there to have these discussions in a safe space so that it's not an argument, it's laying all the cards on the table, and that is one of the responsibilities of the Elders in Residence program, I believe. And it's to bring about some sort of reconciliation process that brings about, because in this institution, they're training the first responders, and the diversity of our peoples in British Columbia alone is not understood. And the diversity of different ethnic groups that are here in British Columbia that have different societal norms that makes it very sensitive for the first responder to be able to respond in a safe, correct manner to the people that they're supposedly helping. And if they're not familiar with the different cultural practices of different people, it's something that we understand. And many people are more aware of it in this last 14 months. These issues that bother us in the last 14 months are the issues that Indigenous peoples in Canada have to live with, have been living with for 150 years. So all of that trauma and things that affect our lives in social isolation that is happening right now with the pandemic is something that first responders need to be aware of so that they can do their job more professionally and more in tune with the cultural diversity of Colombia, not only the Indigenous peoples of Canada, but the Indigenous peoples from around the world that come here to live and raise their families and live a better life than what they had. And that is something I think a lot of our peoples are not fully aware of. So that brings about a lot of funny little ways of trying to deal with it. And it's something that really needs to be brought into our K-12 teaching process. So that's a little bit of something that is really important. And many people are not aware that there's over 95% of British Columbia is unceded lands. And those are lands that are arbitrarily occupied by Canada and the province and the municipalities. There are no agreements of sale. There's no agreements of occupation. There's no remuneration. And those lands have never been given up. The underlying rights and titles still exist with the First Nations peoples. And that's something that is quite unique to British Columbia. And that is something that needs to be worked on. So that I just want to end it there and say thank you again for allowing me this time.
Thank you, Elder Larry, for exploring with such breadth and depth the purpose behind the Elders in Residence program and really the significance, what started off to be able to respond to, for at the time, for example, in 2015, the calls to action, the strategic and legal imperatives. We know that it's so much more than reconciliation, and we often talk about we can't have reconciliation without truth. And so all of you today have really spoken about Indigenous presence, the need for Indigenous presence in post-secondary, and the need for plurality in our episteme, so the ways of being, knowing, doing, and relating. And in doing that, we can start to do the work required for reconciliation. And so you had really exemplified, Elder Larry, that Indigenous knowledges are narrative and orally transmitted, and you spoke so eloquently as to your role as a resident elder at JIBC. So I'm going to just move ahead to look at this slide here, just to give a little bit of an overview of some of the roles that elders play at JIBC. And in my time here, that I've seen elders be asked to do opening presentations, opening ceremony, for example, to come into the classrooms to lead different teachings, whether it be on drum making, for example, talking circles, histories of Indigenous peoples. As you have all had an opportunity to learn from our elders today, each one of them brings such a rich perspective and a diversity in knowledge. And so there are so many opportunities to explore in terms of education with the elders that we have in our Elders in Residence program. And in addition to these roles, they also help us with the different Indigenous events and activities that happen throughout the year, and as well liaise with our Indigenous Advisory Council and report to the President's office. So there's no shortage of the ways that we do call on our elders and have to be so cognizant of the energy and commitments that our elders have. And so this brings us to talking about elders' responsibilities, and to ensure our elders' safety and their wellness and well-being. It was important both to Jason and I, when we both came on at JIBC, that we had a terms of reference drawn up for the elders, so that we have a reciprocal relationship and can care for one another and for the JIBC. So this is just a snapshot of some of the responsibilities that we had agreed to and discussed in that circle. And so our elders in residence are available throughout the month, and usually commit to about 2 to 5 days per month, and currently under the COVID conditions are available virtually and by phone. But they have, of course, been available for in-person or in-class events and presentations. And hopefully one day we'll get back to being able to come together again, or a little bit of a hybrid. But for now, we are able to offer these services and supports virtually. The elders have been involved with cultural workshops, and for example, the Elders in Residence Learning Series, which we held for the first time last fall. So there's many wonderful opportunities that we can engage with that either are initiatives that come out from our office specifically, or perhaps new opportunities that we can explore together in your areas. And so that brings us to talking about formal elder engagement. So we have set up a elder request form on our intranet. So much like if you have ever booked the Aboriginal Gathering Place, you'll find an elder request form on the quick links column, which is found on the left side of the homepage. And so this is a request form that will come to our office and just provide an overview of the request that you are putting forward. For example, the ceremony or event or classroom engagement that you would like to have an elder participate. And so we'll receive those notices back and review that request, and then contact the elder who we think would be most suitable given their diversity and knowledge, and also their availability. Again, if you heard our elders talking before the presentation started, they have, and even through the bios, have many different roles that they play in community, and so cannot always be available to fulfill every request. And especially in this time of being online, we found that we are taxed more than ever, as Elder Larry came from one meeting to another, and so we just have to be really cognizant of not overbooking our elders as well. And so we just appreciate that understanding. And so to provide a little bit of extra support, last year we have published a Elders Guidelines and Protocols book, and that's found on our website. So much of the content that was discussed today is found in this resource, but it goes into detail into some other areas like compensation, for example, considering ceremony and gifts, and topics like elder safety. So to access that, I've provided the link here, but you can find it on the Office of Indigenization's Elders in Residence card on our new website. And I'll do a final plug for one of the initiatives that we have been working hard on with our elders in this past year in the context of COVID, which is Indigenization. And so we have now a wonderful and growing library of Indigenous teachings where we've engaged with our elders to share cultural knowledges and teachings on a variety of topics. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Victor Simon and the Center for Teaching and Learning Innovation for partnering with our office and with the Elders in Residence program to be able to create and produce these videos and have them made available. Again, they're on our website, so they're available to staff, students, and faculty, and can be found at the link shown here on the screen. And so on that, we'll come to our final characteristic of Indigenous knowledges, and that they are holistic. And so we thought that this would be a great opportunity to engage with you that are online and have stayed to listen and be a part of today's presentation, to think about what was shared today and reflect on the question that we've posed here. So why do you think elders are essential to advancing Indigenous education and Indigenization at JIBC? Keeping in mind all parts of our being, ways of doing, ways of knowing, ways of being, ways of relating. And so if you want to just have a moment to think about that and silently reflect upon that, if you would like to share your thoughts, we welcome you to do that in the chat box, or we're going to be moving to the question and answer period now. If you would like to share those thoughts, you're most welcome to do that. And so I'm just going to open it up now to our esteemed circle. If anyone has any questions or answers, and because I can't see the screen, I'm going to ask Jason if you could help moderate if there's any comments that are made in the chat box feature or questions that come up. Be greatly appreciated.
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
I can also start things off with a question if you like.
That would be terrific. Thank you.
Kind of referring to the previous slide where you mentioned Indigenous education and Indigenization, I would be interested in hearing from the elders about how they view Indigenization and how to approach Indigenization at an institution like JIBC.
Well, it's indigenization at JIBC. I know that we've already started, but it's something that I think there should be worked into the curriculum. Many things that you're not that it's not familiar, but to list all of the acts of denial that Canada has created and how it affects our people, and how does it affect faculty and staff emotionally, their wellness. But also, I think there should be more presence within, more visual presence within the buildings or around the building, so that it's something that brings and stimulates conversation between the two opposing factions. That's something that needs to be out there, so that to be able to get beyond that flippant remark that is still out there, like, that happened in the past, guys. Just get over it, you know. And it's something that is said many times with people that are not familiar with all of these issues. So that's just a little bit of what I think. So.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Elder Larry. Elder Phil?
Very well said there, Larry. And from my perspective, I think we need to do more of what we call some teaching, some sharing, and the knowledge that that's been put into JI about the worldview. We need to get back to the land and connect with that, then balance that with the other side of the world that we're in today. That's really confusing especially our younger people, the material man-made world. We need to balance that with the worldview of knowledge with the natural world, these two. And my seeing things throughout in the last few years is that the worldview is very lacking, which I mean for the Aboriginal people, us Aboriginal people. We need to get back to the land. We don't need all these substances and all these other man-made things to make our world turn. That's where I see a lot of our younger people using that to make them happy. We need to talk a little bit more about coming down and working together as human beings. It don't matter what culture, what language you speak. And that includes the people in the professional level. They need to bring their feet down to the ground, just to keep it simple and not to overdo anything, but keep it simple so that we have an understanding of ourselves. And we, like I say, we can only be examples. And if we practice that, the younger people are watching, and the younger ones behind them are watching. So we have to learn to be examples, however we want to go, and make the ones that are watching us understand the reason why we walk and talk like this. So that is my view of it. So I hope that helps, Jason.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Elder Phil. Elder Ken?
Yes, I agree with both Larry and Phil, because just like Phil was saying, we need to get the young people. Because in all my times in federal institutions, the men I worked with, one of their standard sayings was, "Well, it's too late for me, Ken. You have to get the kids." And of course, our work was to try and convince them it's never too late. But it was because they never had the opportunity that we're providing and hopefully can continue to provide to the younger children, so they don't grow up with that mindset. Because when you've been beaten down for so many years, I had one young fellow that got 2 years of a degree program in horticulture. And he told me he was the most surprised one in the room when he found out he could learn. Because he'd been told he was a dumb Indian for so long that he believed it. And when you get, this man was in his mid-20s, and when you get people like that, that shows you that where we have to get, and that's why the institution is so important. You have, you know, all the people within the institution, the instructors included, need to be given the opportunity to learn just what they're dealing with when they have people come in from different parts of the country, and some have different levels of education, some have different ways of learning. And like Phil was saying, you know, you have to get back to the basics and understand where they come from, and get the information across to them that there's all different ways of learning, and there's all different ways of handling things. And that's why the spirituality was so important in our culture, because it taught people that you could go back to the basics to get an answer. Everything didn't have to be technologically advanced, and it's very difficult to get that information across. And the people that never had the opportunity, how can the parents teach the children if they've never been taught themselves? And I've encountered that in various situations of teaching, where the parents would say, well, why didn't they teach us that in school? So that's why an educational body like the Institute is so important, where you're expanding the knowledge of the Indigenous peoples into everybody, not just the Indigenous peoples themselves, because all nations need to learn from each other, the good and the bad, if we want to keep advancing. So that's my take on indigenization. I think it should keep expanding, and you're doing a good job, and we just have to keep working at it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Elder Ken. And Elder Larry, Elder Phil, Elder Ken, just want to thank all three of you for participating today online. And I always learn something from each of you. Every time you talk, there's something new that I get from it. So it was great to hear each of you speak today. And thank you for sharing your knowledge and teachings with us and everyone online. Heather, I'll throw it back to you. There aren't currently any questions in the chat.
Great, thank you so much. So I'll pose just one question, and then if we don't have any further questions, we can close a little bit early. And today, and always again, the standing and open invitation to engage with the Elders in Residence program. I should mention that the Elders in Residence have an email address now, eldersinresidence@jibc.ca. So if you have any thoughts or questions following today's presentation, we invite you to send it our way. But I just wanted to pose a question. We have a wide variety of staff and faculty in different positions online. Your thoughts around any advice or guidance for taking that first step going forward in terms of curriculum development, in terms of transforming our classroom experiences. Any thoughts for Indigenous education and being able to make those beginning steps of progress?
No. Excuse me. No, I know that's hard. The first step is pretty big.
Yes, it is.
But, to go back to where our old people would be is to be able to think about and discuss these issues. You've got to hang up your differences outside the building. Our old people would tell you that. Hang up your differences outside. Hang up your predetermined notions of what's happening or what the work is going to be. Because if you don't go in there with an open heart and an open mind, you're not going to find the core of the work. And that work is having a better understanding of each other and how we affect each other with the political machinations that are going on still today. And you've got to be able to keep your mind and your heart open to be able to have a good critical understanding of what indigenization is all about. And I think that's the real first step. And it's to find out more about all those different things that we spoke of this morning. So, but it's that open heart, open mind. If you don't have that, then it's not gonna come around. Thank you.
Very wise. Thank you. Thank you, Elder Larry. Elder Phil, do you have any thoughts on first steps forward?
I do, and I've been thinking about it for quite some times. And I want to thank Jason for creating a platform for us to be able to do what we're doing. He's a very brave young man to be able to try and work on a curriculum so that it works for everybody. I just want to thank him for that before I say anything. And for me, what I've noticed here, we need to all come together, including the staff or anybody that's going to be involved with the Justice Institute here, to be able to create I guess I could say, a culture. Come together, like Larry said, put your differences behind the door when you come into that circle, to be able to learn from each other. My understanding is we all have something to offer. It don't matter what culture, what language you speak. That is what's going to bring this together in a strong, strong way, so that we start working together. Nobody has the right answer, the right tool. But we do, as an Aboriginal people, we could form a circle where it's safe for everybody to be able to speak out and to be able to express themselves, to go forward with the education that needs to be taught here. And that is my kind of perspective and my view. And that's even the same thing in different curriculums that take place here in Canada. And it's not easy, because we need to be able to understand the two different roles here we play in our life. There's the political part, and there's the cultural or community part. We have to put the political part outside the doors. We're going to need it. We need politics, and work with human. How can we work together in a healthy way for our children and for the people that are wanting to learn more about understanding that concept? And I know for me, I've seen throughout my lifetime, politics, we need it, but also it tears us apart. No matter what culture you talk about, politics tears us apart. We have to know how to use it. And also we have to go on the other side, where all cultures are so important. It don't matter what culture you talk about. Those are the values that need to be used before, like Larry was saying, put your differences outside the door, and have an open mind when you come into the circle or to this place to share, because we're going to learn from each other. It's going to take all of us to do it. And that's my view. So, and that's about all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Elder Ken, I'm going to pass it over to you for your thoughts.
Yes, I think what they're saying is exactly the way it needs to be done, and perhaps as a first step, maybe some circles with the staff, if available, so they could learn what a circle is. And just like Elder Phil said, you leave your political differences outside the circle, and when you get inside, because the opinions that they're going to express is their understanding of what an Indigenous person is. And many of them don't really have that knowledge. But by expressing it within the circle and knowing that's where it's going to stay, they can get a better understanding of just what the people are, where they come from, and why they do these things, which may help them to, promote understanding when they're dealing with the people. So maybe as a first step, we could think about having the occasional circle with some staff members. But other than that, I think that Elder Larry and Elder Phil have covered it pretty good, because we have to learn from each other, and we have to clarify the understanding so that we know where we're. If you don't have a baseline, how do you know where you're starting from? Mm-hmm. So I think that might be something to consider in the future. And I want to thank you all for allowing me to participate in this. It's always a very educational experience. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Elder Ken, and thank you to all of our elders. To paraphrase, you've really woven together such strong thoughts that we can leave from today and reflect on, to have an open heart, an open mind, to leave our political differences aside, come into the circle in safety, and we can learn together. So it's a really beautiful way to end today. Before I invite Elder Larry for closing remarks, I just wanted to check in with Jason to see if you have any final thoughts for today that you wanted to share.
Sure. Thank you, Heather, for facilitating today. I think you did a great job, and there's so much to cover in terms of the Elders and Residents program, but I think the work the Office of Indigenization and our elders do together to push this initiative forward and further develop the Elders and Residents program has been a great journey, and I'm happy to have Elder Larry, Elder Ken, Elder Phil, and yourself, Heather, along for that journey. And again, just to reiterate, it's always a real privilege and honor to hear our elders speak, and I know that I'm going to take away something different every single time, even if it's something similar that I've heard before but said in a different way. There's always at least one teaching at a minimum that I take away from each of our elders every single time that they speak, and so I encourage everyone to reflect on the teachings of today. There's a lot to reflect on, and how we can continue to move forward within the institution and within the Elders and Residents program, and with Indigenous education and Indigenization at the institution. So raise my hands to our three elders and to yourself, Heather, for providing this session today. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well said, and much appreciated, Jason. So I'm going to pass it over to Elder Larry to close us in a good way today.
Thank you, Heather. I want to say thank you to all the people that are still logged on, that you sat through this and listened to us talk, and it's very, very much in the way that our old people did. People were talking, listening, putting forward all the different ideas and thoughts and the different ways of understanding each other, and that we are all here in this struggle together, and it needs to be understood that we are together, and it's our lives that we are working with, our children's lives, our grandchildren's, great-grandchildren's. So I want to say thank you for being present and being with us. And thank you, Jason, and thank you, Heather, and thank you, Ken and Phil. This is a really, really big step for all of us. And I want to say thank you. And don't forget to keep your differences outside the door. And if at all possible, don't pick them up again when you're moving away from where you are right now. So, I tap ever siam nasiya, let Quincy Theatala, Taswallop, because none of it the mooks them all, because society to Squallowans, mook to Mustayo, because we eat, and now we'll high tap Kasiam. Thank you. Thank you all. Haichka.
Thank you, Elder Larry. So we wish you all a beautiful day, and again, thank you for listening to our presentation and taking that step with us. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, what?